Hey cats, EDDBUD here. I've hit the trails recently to test out a brand new shoe from Saucony, the Endorphin Trail. Let's see those lugs. Hey people, thanks for tuning in, EDDBUD here. If it's your first time at the channel, or you're a regular viewer, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications of when I roll out those new videos for you. And if you enjoy the video in any shape or form, please give us a thumbs up like. It really helps with the algorithm and all that jazz. You know the score. So today, an initial review of the Saucony Endorphin Trail. You know I'm a big fan of those Endorphin shoes. I love the Pro, love the Speed. In fact, the Pro 2 is rapidly becoming one of my favourites. Quick disclaimer, this shoe has been sent to me for review, but nobody's going to be vetting my content before my valued viewers get to see it. My honest opinions as per usual. Some stats for you first. In my UK size 11 or US size 12, this one's weighing in at 370 grams, which is just above 13 ounces. We can compare that, I guess, to the Pegasus Trail 3, a shoe that I picked up recently. That was about 361 grams in the same size. It's about 12.73 ounces. So a touch heavier here in the Endorphin Trail, but an altogether very different beast. Very similar heel to toe drop here in the Endorphin Trail as per the Endorphin Pro, or the Pro 2, or the Speed. Around about the same heel stack, but a little bit more in the forefoot. This shoe launches round about now in the UK for 155 Earth credits. We'll start with the upper first. So around about 12 miles into the shoe thus far to give you some reasonable initial opinions. I can confirm the shoe feels true to size to me, though I would suggest it's a little more constrictive in the toe box, mainly due to the mudguard here. There's quite a pronounced bit of reinforcement to protect the toes. So it does give the impression that there's a little less room there, but I think it's a bit of an illusion. Obviously, where we have the Endorphin Pro and the Speed, those uppers are built for breathability only. The Trail here is much more about foot fortification or protection. It is possible to attach a gaiter if you've got one, if you're running in some very muddy conditions, using some of the loops that we've got here in the upper. Ingenious system, I like it. Not saying that I really need to utilise on my local trail, although in fairness, we've had loads of rain recently, which has left that route very boggy, very wet and muddy. So if you want to attach one of those, it's going to help to prevent some of that debris and dirt from getting inside the shoe. I didn't have any issues with that on my initial runs. Nothing managed to get inside and catch a lift. There were no stowaways whatsoever. The upper's actually very form-fitting. To get it on, I was reminded a little bit, I guess, of the Alpha Fly. You do need those pull tabs here in the heel and on the tongue. Once on though, it fits like a glove. I found the upper to be excellent in terms of preventing moisture and debris from getting inside the shoe. It's a little bit down to that pronounced tongue actually. It feels a little bit like Flyknit type material. Going down through the top of the foot, there is a very pronounced heel counter here in the Endorphin Trail, a world away from the Endorphin Pro 2 or the Speed. There's ample padding provided here though around the back of the foot. It really is a protective, soft foot tank. That innovative yet very simple lacing does provide a really good lockdown over the top of the foot. It was just easy to achieve. I put the shoe on, laced it up and went running, and I didn't have to worry about whether the shoe was going to flap around on my foot. It was perfect. First time. There's very few times that that occurs. I would suggest the Endorphin Trail's a little narrower than the Trail 3 from Nike. There's a little bit more room inside the Pegasus Trail 3, I think. I think if you've got a slightly wider foot, then you might come unstuck. But I wouldn't say it's particularly narrow, just narrower. Over my initial runs, as you can see, the uppers got saturated, covered in mud on various different occasions. It's relatively easy to clean if that's a big thing for you. I'm not particularly fussed about it. Shoes are meant to be worn, they're meant to be utilised for their intended purpose, and yeah, this one, you can just brush the mud off it. It looks fine. How are you doing? I think it's a bit of a cross between the Mizuno Wave Rider Neo upper design and the Zoomfly 3. That's what it feels like to me. Certainly those pull tabs are needed. It is a tough one to get on foot, but once it's there, it's stellar. I don't mean the beer. Protective and functional, like a foot sheath. I'd suggest a bit more for serious trail exploration though. Perhaps a little bit present and bulky in the upper for racing. I'm going to give this a 2.5 out of 3 for the upper after my initial runs. Just wish there was perhaps a little bit less of it. Midsole now. this is where things get interesting. I'm intrigued to see that Saucony have utilised Power Run PB in the midsole of the Endorphin Trail. Saucony have placed a suit of armour, this mesh, over the top of the Power Run material, I think to try and extend the longevity and improve the durability of it. The mesh layer here doesn't really hamper the compression of the foam too much, I suppose. It is a little bit different in nature to the implementation within the Endorphin Pro and the Speed. There is a little bit of an overlap, certainly in the heel area. It does sort of cup the back of the foot. All of that foam isn't quite underneath, but the majority of it. Underfoot, you certainly feel the Power Run PB power. Underfoot, you certainly feel the Power Run PB properties. Although running for me on my local trail routes is a bit more of a stop-start activity. There's various different terrains there, from soft forest mud to swampy turf to dusty gravel paths. The hallmarks of the foam are there, certainly. I've run a lot of miles in that foam and I could feel it. The toes could feel the succulent nature. I think from a fatigue limiting point of view, it's going to be very appealing. If you like that type of foam feel, then you'll like this one. Trail shoes are always a careful balance, aren't they, guys, between cushion and stability. Obviously, you're on more unstable surfaces. Balance is going to be an issue, especially when you're tall like me and very slight. It's kind of like a deer skating on ice. I think Saucony have got it spot on here though between those two things. They've managed to enhance the stability of the foam. I think using that mesh a little bit actually. I don't think it's just for durability. And that midsole underfoot surface area is just right to give you that balance. I didn't feel like I was going to topple over, and I did feel that a few times when I ran in the Pegasus Trail 3, and that was in much drier conditions. I mean, I can feel like I can topple over if I'm just walking down the stairs, because that's just how I am. I've got a high centre of gravity, but I haven't felt that in my initial runs in the Endorphin Trail. So controlled in the cushion, and it makes it quite versatile from that aspect. You've got some support here without a massive heel flare. I really don't like those big heel flares. I just find them a bit ridiculous, really. I'm going to give this a 2.7 out of 3 for the midsole after my initial runs. Very promising, Saucony. Very promising. Outsole now. The more spaced out lugs on the Endorphin Trail here absolutely toast the outsole on the Pegasus Trail 3. Like marshmallows on a campfire. Superb grip on wet mud, and there was a lot of it. And on gravel, we have the same results. The level of traction is always decided when the going gets tough. Billy Ocean appears and he says, yes. The power track setup here provides some tractor-like traction. Is that where traction comes from? Tractors? Tractor? Yeah. I always remember going on the back of a flatbed tractor to a farm. I think apparently I was 4 years old and I can remember it. I remember the smell of the rubber. It's made me the man I am today. Pull it together, man, come on. Despite the very boggy conditions on my initial runs in the Endorphin Trail, I never felt an ounce of fear. Assured underfoot, and that was good. It was always nice to feel that. It was really treacherous. The outsole pattern was especially good actually going up hills and on some gravel descents as well. There's very little that I can find here that I don't like. I mean, you wouldn't want to wear it on a road race, but that's not what it's designed for. I'm going to give it a 2.9 out of 3 after my initial runs, only lowered by that sort of poor road to trail transition and unknown rubber durability. It's a bit like that film with Liam Neeson, The Unknown. That was actually very good, I enjoyed that one. A rubber dinghy like water resistance here. I wonder how many rubber ducks were sacrificed to make this one. Next level grip, and we like it. Ow. Value. We got to talk value now. So value-wise, at 155 Earth credits, it's certainly up there. I mean, we're in Endorphin Speed territory there. But I find these are a big step up from some road to trail sort of shoe. I think it's aimed at the more serious trail runner in terms of the outsole and that extremely forgiving midsole material. The multi-surface traction here in the Endorphin Trail is a step above the Pegasus Trail 3. It really does toast it. Though that comes at a price and you have to take that into consideration. You've got to think very carefully as to whether it's going to fit into your running shoe rotation and you're going to use it on a more frequent basis. If you're only hitting the trails every so often, you probably want to go for something that's a little cheaper. Quality though is high all round. It does feel like a really nice quality product when you take it out of the box and when you get it on foot. There's no rough edges, that's what I'm trying to say. Lugs deep enough to provide some longevity, and I've got to say it feels less like a trail shoe underfoot than a lot of others that I've tried out. Just feels like you got Power Run PB there, and that's exactly what there is. A cushioned cousin to the Endorphin Pro on the trails. Just wish the weight was a little bit lower. They can just pull it back a little bit. Is there any bits I can cut off? I'm not going to do that. For value, I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 3 after my initial runs. We'll see how it shapes up over time. So if I've totaled the scores up correctly, that gives us a 10.6 out of 12 for the Saucony Endorphin Trail after my initial runs. I think I gave the Peg Trail 3 10.2, so yeah, certainly a step above that, very close to the Innovate G300. I've been really lucky to actually test out lots of trail shoes, and yeah, it's amongst one of the best. Are you going to be picking up the Endorphin Trail on release? I think it's out now actually, so go and have a look. Feast your eyes on the trail traction. It's time for the musical interlude. Today from Wild Billy Childish and the Buff Medways. This one's called Medway Wheelers. Here you have very dirty lo-fi garage rock on every track. My favourites here are Lie Detector and Poundland Poets. There's always some people outside Poundland in my town, and I wouldn't classify them as poets. Artists of some type, I would suggest, but yeah, they're not poets. Billy Childish beats his guitar on this one into submission with some gravelly chords, and the bass is wiry but not thin. While Billy Childish is a national hero, he should be knighted as far as I'm concerned. He's produced a lot of art and inspired a lot of people. He always seems to follow his artistic leaning rather than being some sort of paid up sponsor, rather than relying on sort of publicity and sponsorship and all that type of stuff to stop him from being what he is. And I really like that. There's masses of Billy Childish material out there. Go and check out some of it. You may love it, you may absolutely hate it, but it's worth a listen. Otherwise we just miss out on really interesting things. It's the same with shoes, isn't it, really? You can miss out on some really interesting different manufacturers or different models that have come out if you just don't give them a whirl. Go and try them out. Try something new today, eat something new, enjoy yourselves. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, help the channel out by hitting that subscribe button and the notifications bell below so we can inform you as to when new material is released into the world, something like that. You know the score. It also helps the channel out a huge amount if you give this video a thumbs up like, and also share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you. Hey guys, taking the Endorphin Trail out for an initial spin today. Got a bit of moisture around still. We're in July, but there's been quite a lot of rain recently. Way more than we've had over the last few months, that's for sure. So the trail's nice and wet. Makes for a good test of the traction and grip on the bottom of the shoe. I gotta say, initially you certainly feel that speed roll technology. It's certainly there. It does feel very close to the Endorphin Pro in terms of that respect. Nice muddy terrain today. The path's nice and loose. You can feel the lugs digging into the ground. Certainly feels quite assured so far. Yeah, pretty much the whole of the trail is just waterlogged in certain parts. Very muddy, very slippery. Last time I came through here, all the sides of the path were completely covered, but they've cut it all back now, which is a lot easier. Just makes you realise how much it had grown actually, and this section here was completely overrun. So from those initial muddy sort of woodland type terrains, very good. Traction's on point, didn't slip around once. So certainly a bit of an improvement on the Pegasus Trail 3 outsole. Definitely feels better than that. And it's feeling pretty good on the gravel. One really good thing about this little trail is it's really difficult to get lost. Lots of good conditions, varied conditions as well, and you can't get lost. It's ideal.